Are insurers right to refuse cover to people who have a serious criminal conviction, even if they're very old and the sentence was served several decades ago? Moneybox was contacted by a man convicted of attempted murder in 1971. He got a life sentence. He's been out of prison nearly 30 years. But when he discloses that conviction to insurance firms, they refuse to cover the contents of his flat. Bob Howard went to meet him.
In 1971, I was attacked, and I retaliated a couple of weeks later, which was premeditated, I suppose. I was convicted of attempted murder. I got a life sentence.
How old were you?
23, 24. In 1986, I had a stroke and was discharged from prison and came to live here. I lived here a number of years, and I can't get household contents insurance. I've tried many times, but because I answer the question, do you have any criminal convictions? Because I put yes, I'm declined insurance because they say that the sentence isn't spent. Well, it can't be spent because I'm on life parole. So the only way I can get insurance is to lie. But if I do lie and they find out, I'll have paid money for years, possibly, for nothing, because they will, insurance companies, they find any excuse not to pay out, and that would be a valid reason because I hadn't answered the question truthfully. I just feel that I'm still being sentenced, if you like, and I'm vulnerable because I'm now getting on. I'm 72 years of age. I would feel comfortable if I could have household contents insurance. I just want to insure the few bits and pieces I've got.
How many different insurers have you tried?
I've tried them all. I've been to a broker. The Housing Authority offer household insurance, but they decline to insure me. I've been to Norwich Union, I've been to Direct Line, I've been to all the insurers, and none of them will insure me because I have an unspent conviction.
And they all ask you to disclose that for contents insurance?
Yes. There's several politicians been to jail for fraud, yet their convictions will be spent. Well, mine's never spent because it was a life sentence. How can I integrate with society if I can't have household contents insurance? I feel I'm missing.
And would you accept that you should still pay a higher premium than somebody else or not? Do you think that you should be treated just as anybody else?
I think I should be treated as everyone else because I've been almost 30 years out of prison. I can get car insurance. I get travel insurance. Why can I not have household contents insurance? And why should I pay a higher premium? I think I should be treated just as Joe Bloggs in the street is treated, who's 72 years of age, living in a local authority property, and just gets on with life.
Bob Howard speaking to John, a name we agreed to give him. He didn't want his real name used. Christopher Stacey is listening to that. He's from the reformed offenders charity Unlock. Christopher Stacey, how common is John's experience?
Sadly, far too common in our experience. There's over 9 million people with a criminal record. Many people have unspent convictions, many of those for life, as in John's case, and for them it's very difficult, certainly with mainstream insurers.
And unspent means you've got to admit it, you can't deny it. They're spent after a certain time. Now, the law's changing on that, isn't it? Will that help people like John?
It will help people with convictions. It won't help John, unfortunately. So the law
because his sentence is too long.
That's true, yes. So the changes will mean that any sentence up to 4 years in prison will be able to become spent at some point, and those changes are due to come in the spring of this year, hopefully. But for people like John, his conviction will be forever unspent, and we'd like a system which would allow for people like him to have his conviction become spent at some point, because, as he says, 30 years ago, he's become a law-abiding person now, and he deserves to be treated like anybody else.
Now, he named two companies, Direct Line and Aviva, and they confirmed to us that they wouldn't insure contents for people with his record. Are there insurers, though, that will?
There are. All mainstream insurers ask about convictions and they will normally decline. We have a list of insurers on our website, which is hub.unlock.org.uk. There's a number of those on there, one of which I believe you're speaking to in a second. I'd say to people like John, use that list of insurers. It's a fully comprehensive list. Shop around and that will hopefully give you the best price. In many cases, people do pay slightly more and in some cases quite a lot more, which isn't fair, but that is the way that people can get some type of cover.
Well, as Christopher said, on the phone is Julie Carter. She's Household Business Coordinator at the insurance broker Adrian Flux. Would you be able to find insurance for John and others like him, Julie?
Yes, certainly.
But he'd pay a premium?
Potentially he would. In John's situation, though, his crime happened some 30 years ago, so the risk of any kind of vigilante, malicious damage or arson attacks or indeed reoffending is very, very low.
So is that why they charge more? Because someone who's been convicted of an assault, in his case an attempted murder, there might be some retribution from somebody on him at some later date, so that their property is less secure?
Yes, that's right.
So that's their I won't say excuse, but that's their reason. And how do underwriters weigh up that risk?
We have to obtain lots of information from the client, so it really does depend on the date of conviction, the nature of the conviction, mitigating circumstances, and what's actually happened with the person, their own personal circumstances. So maybe their lifestyle has changed, maybe they've moved away from the area. Those kind of things are certainly taken into consideration to weigh up the risk.
It does sound like very personal underwriting, whereas most of us, we go online, we go on a website, and no human ever intervenes in the process at all.
That's right, but I think you'll find with the criminal convictions, online businesses will just refuse because they don't have the sophistication of asking the details that we really need to underwrite that risk. And
Christopher, thanks very much for that, Julie. Christopher Stacey, the changes when a conviction becomes spent, you say convictions up to 4 years, prison sentences up to 4 years will become spent, but won't affect life sentences. It happened in the spring. Why has it taken so long? Because you and I talked about this on this programme at least once, maybe twice before.
Yes, I know, and we're told from the government that it's taking them time to implement the changes to mean that people will be able to get a certificate that prove that their convictions are no longer unspent, but that isn't good enough from our perspective. Could I just pick up on very quickly the point
I've got
about...
5 seconds, literally.
I would like to see evidence that people with convictions are high risk.
Christopher Stacey and Julie Carter, thanks.